Well, hi everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Feeling Smarter. My name's Aaron Dunn, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Tim Miller. Okay, Tim, how are you?
Yeah, going pretty well, Aaron. How you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. Well, slightly different topic today. We this time of year we've been talking about tax planning and Division 296 and other things that have been date driven. But we are going to look at a particular topic that has somewhat become urgent in respect to the transfer of UK pension assets under what we commonly know as QROP arrangements. So, I guess, Tim, for me to start, one of the things that we have been working through since sort of April has been the fact that we are seeing an age change to that qualifying age for someone to be able to become a member of a self-managed fund and therefore qualify to transfer UK pension monies across to Australia. Now, that age is changing from 55 to 57, and we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. But maybe for those that don't necessarily understand some of this, can you just give a little bit more of an elaboration on how these QROPS actually work?
Yeah, a summary on QROPS is is an interesting concept in itself. Look, we're talking about obviously money sitting within specific UK type funds, and the ability or the capacity to transfer that money elsewhere if you leave the UK. And of course, there's a long history of these, and one of the first requirements is that from a fund point of view, from a receiving fund point of view, to receive money that has effectively started out in the UK, the fund has to register with effectively the UK tax office, right?
Yeah.
I always get my initials around the wrong way, but
HMRC,
HMRC,
HMRC.
that's
So,
it.
and it didn't
We
change as
always,
his or her.
that's
So when the
correct.
Queen died and the King took over, it still becomes it's still HMRC.
Correct. But to be registered to be able to receive it, you have to register your fund to be effectively a recognised overseas pension scheme, and you have to meet certain conditions. And if you don't, so if you try to take money out of the UK and bring it into Australia, there are ridiculously harsh tax penalties in regards to what they would call generally an unauthorised withdrawal, unauthorised benefit. So it makes great sense for the fund to do the right thing. It's still a bit sort of old school methods from a registration point of view. It takes a little bit of time for it to all occur, but the reality is, a number of years ago now, they changed the rules to restrict the capacity to roll money over to age 55, and that effectively wiped every fund in Australia off the register because we have our additional conditions of release. So whilst preservation age for Australia at that point was 55, so there wasn't too much of an issue, we had all these other conditions of release, disability, compassionate grounds, financial hardship, other elements that didn't satisfy the UK pension rules. And so it ultimately put a kibosh on any Australian fund being registered. SMSFs were quick to adapt to that and created rules which restricted fund membership to that age 55 to ensure that those funds could then subsequently be registered and receive monies in from the UK to ensure that they maintain the tax concessions.
Yeah, so hence, as you rightly said there, we did see, and Smarter SMSF is certainly one that does this, where we have a specific QROPS deed, and that deed around Rule 3 looks at specifically restricting membership to those who are 55 years of age or over. Now, what has transpired from the 6th of April 2026, and then ultimately when these laws come about from the 6th of April 2028, when it moves from age 55 through to 57, we have received information where HMRC are now spending more time exploring the particulars of the deed to ensure that that prescriptive nature of age 55 has been updated to ensure that the qualifying age the needle, in essence, is moving for those up to age 57 in accordance with UK law. So what becomes interesting here then is that we will have situations whereby it can be quite simple insofar that someone is already 57 years of age, so we would be able to quite easily identify those, and therefore we're not going to have any problems with that. We can easily also identify those sort of post 6 April 2028, so to ensure that they meet that relevant requirement at that point in time. But we have this cohort of people in the middle whereby they need to ensure that they don't get caught out by the change or the transitional change here. And what has been indicated with this transitional cohort is that the transfers ultimately should only be accepted where the UK pension has already been crystallised prior to the transfer. And Tim, I might get you to just elaborate that on that a little bit more in a minute. But ultimately, this is all about removing the SIS hardship access risk, as the UK event around that has already occurred compliantly. And I guess, Tim, that the thing here that's worth noting is that whilst we have ages that are relevant for membership here, we still ultimately have preservation conditions that we've got to meet on the Australian side of the fence as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that when I look particularly at these UK transfers, is that primarily from an Australian point of view, if we take let's say a common sense approach, right? And I know that super doesn't always take a common sense approach, but because we can't see, or we can't now have access to super in a standard environment from until we hit age 60. So there's a general concept of compliance with the UK rules, in the sense, well, actually Australia is a little bit stricter, except for all these other conditions of release. And so, it's all interesting when people are looking at it from a strategic point of view to ensure they get the timing right with that transfer, because as you talked about before, and you highlighted the concept of crystallising the pension, unlike Australian rules, it's effectively, they call it a flexi access pension in the UK. What they tend to do is you report the first payment, right? And the first payment is effectively your crystallisation event, and then after that, you don't have withdrawal limits like you don't have your minimum and maximum. I mean, we don't have maximum. We do for TRIS. We don't for an account-based pension so much. But once that crystallisation event occurs, then you are effectively in flexi access drawdown phase. And you're not reporting what you're taking on an annual basis, and there's effectively no more reporting that needs to be done back to the UK.
Yeah. And so what HMRC has indicated to us is that as a result of this change coming in, they're now requesting that schemes submit an updated deed that is compliant with the new clauses in advance of these rules coming in. So I think there's a few important lessons here for people that have clients or advise in this space, that we need to ensure that the deed is referencing these key changes going forward, because we are seeing HMRC digging a little bit deeper around that. So I guess from Smarter SMSF's point of view, what we have done in that regard is we've made some changes in respect to Rule 3. So the fact that we have the membership change. So we've put in amendments around the qualifying age, and in essence, the fact that the age-based membership restriction is there, but the fact that it is moving as well. We've also reflected changes around the trustee powers in Rule 15. So the fact that the QROPS status reflects the normal minimum pension age definition, subject to any protected pension age that is held by that transferring member, and ultimately the powers of the trustee to authorise and accept payments and stuff that would come in. And then we've got a specific provision within Rule 25 about accessing superannuation benefits, and again ensuring that the trustee is not accessing or accepting the transfer of benefits from a registered UK pension scheme unless those conditions that we've spoken about have ultimately been satisfied. So really what you're looking for is the fact that we're seeing a removal of any sort of hard wiring in the deed. So if you're seeing things like, age 55 being referenced and you're still active in wanting to move monies across, just note that you would need to go through an update process to ensure that they would be accepted going forward. And equally, if those new funds are being set up to enact transfers, we're going to see HMRC dig a little bit deeper and request copies of deeds to ensure that they comply with the amendments that are coming in from the 6th of April 2028 as well. So I guess, Tim, is there anything else that you wanted to add around this topic?
Oh, look, the only thing, I mean, there's plenty that we can talk about in regards to QROPS and segregation versus other things in that regard. But I think what this really ultimately reminds me of is that the Australian superannuation system is not the concept of change is not foreign, and the UK system is also one that changes on almost a similar sort of regularity to Australia, and concepts like hardwiring deeds, it's like the rules around age 65. Our rules change from 65 to 67 in certain elements, and age pension things and other things. So it's really just making sure that your deed is keeping up with the rules based on the jurisdiction that you're largely operating in.
Yeah, and the fact that we cross over jurisdictions to ensure that they continue to comply with both requirements because of the nature that we're transferring money between different countries.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you once again for your time.
No worries.
And we look forward to seeing you for our next edition of Feeling Smarter. Take care and bye for now.
See you all.